Before we begin, I want you to find a comfortable position. Just let your body sink into the mattress like a ship settling into a soft landing dock. Adjust your pillows until your neck feels perfectly supported and pull the blanket up to your shoulders. Let the warmth embrace you. Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out. Tonight, we aren't going to worry about the stresses of your day or the tasks waiting for you tomorrow. Tonight, we are going to drift away to a galaxy far, far away. But we aren't going there to fight battles or pilot starfighters. We are going there to explore the quiet, hidden corners of the lore, the deep mysteries that sit beneath the surface of the stories we love. We are going to unravel the complex, ancient, and fascinating threads of the dark side. But we will do it slowly, calmly, and peacefully. Imagine you're sitting in a vast, dim archive. The walls are lined with shelves that stretch up into the shadows, filled with glowing data crystals and ancient, leather-bound books. It is quiet here. The only sound is the low, comforting hum of the ventilation and the distant, soft rain falling on the glass skylight far above. You are safe here. You are warm. And together, we are going to pull down a few of these dusty volumes and look at the secrets written inside. We are going to think about Star Wars, but in a way that is slow and thoughtful, a way that lets your mind wander and drift until you eventually float off into a deep, dreamless sleep. Let's start with a sound. You know this sound perfectly. It is perhaps the most famous sound in cinema history. It is a rhythmic, mechanical inhale and exhale. Kupa. Kupa, the breathing of Darth Vader. For over 45 years, that sound has signaled danger and fear in the movies. But tonight, I want you to listen to it differently. I want you to hear it as a rhythm, a metronome ticking back and forth, slow and steady. Inhale, exhale. When we watched the movies as children, we just thought it was scary. We knew he was injured, that the suit was keeping him alive. We learned that the legendary sound designer Bert created that sound using an old scuba regulator, recording himself breathing through it to get that cold, mechanical isolation. But imagine for a moment that there is a deeper reason for that sound, a reason that is hidden in the ancient history of the Sith. What if that breathing wasn't just a medical necessity, but a choice, a carefully designed instrument of fear? Think about the suit Darth Vader wears. We know he was terribly injured on the volcanic world of Mustafar. The heat, the gases, the sheer physical trauma, it devastated his body. The suit is a walking life support system. It breathes for him when his lungs cannot. It regulates his temperature. It is a cage, yes, but it is also a fortress. Now, drift deeper into the theory. Imagine Emperor Palpatine, the man who commissioned this suit. He wasn't just a politician or a ruler. He was a scholar of ancient dark knowledge. He knew things about the Force that had been forgotten for thousands of years. There's a theory that says the specific rhythm of Vader's breathing is based on ancient Sith war meditation techniques. The Sith of old understood that fear is a tangible energy. It isn't just a feeling, it is a frequency. They believed that if you could create a resonance, a sound wave that matched the vibration of fear itself, you could break the spirit of an entire army without lifting a finger. Palpatine, in his cruel genius, saw an opportunity. Vader needed a machine to breathe, so why not tune that machine? Why not calibrate the mechanical pumps and the vocal synthesizers to match those ancient, forgotten rhythms? Imagine Vader standing on the bridge of a star destroyer. He is looking out at the stars, perfectly still. His chest rises and falls with that machine-like precision. He isn't just breathing. He is meditating. Every inhale draws in the dark energy of the cosmos. Every exhale projects a subtle wave of dread. This is why in the stories, people feel cold when he walks into a room. It's why hardened soldiers who have seen war and death suddenly feel a primal urge to run when he is near. It isn't just that he is tall or carries a laser sword. It is the sound. It is a sonic weapon playing on a loop, a lullaby of terror that vibrates in the chest of anyone standing nearby. Think about how consistent it is. Whether Vader is standing still or fighting a duel, the breath rarely changes speed. A normal person, even with a machine helping them, would need to breathe faster when they are exerting themselves. But Vader's rhythm is constant. It is relentless. It suggests that the primary function of the suit isn't just biology, it is psychological warfare. He is a walking temple of the dark side, broadcasting a signal of intimidation to the universe. And deeper still, think about the solitude of that suit. We know Vader spent hours, sometimes days, in his meditation chamber, that white, sterile pod where the helmet would lower onto his head. We used to think he was just resting, trying to heal. But what if he was tuning the instrument? What if he was sitting there in the silence of space, adjusting the pitch and the frequency of his own voice, calibrating the hum of his respirator until it was in perfect harmony with the dark side? It turns the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker into something even more profound. He became a living artifact, a vessel for ancient magic, encased in black armor that hummed with the history of the Sith. As you breathe now, in your own bed, feel the difference. Your breath is soft, it is natural, it is yours. You don't need a machine. You are safe. You can take a deep breath in, fill your lungs with cool, fresh air, and let it out slowly, releasing all the tension in your shoulders. Unlike Vader, you are free to rest. You are free to drift. Now let's let our minds float away from the mechanical breathing of Vader and travel further back in time. We are going back before the Empire, before the Clone Wars, to a time of shadows and secrets. We are going to think about a figure who is often whispered about but rarely seen. Darth Plagueis, the Wise. You remember the scene. Palpatine and Anakin are sitting in the Opera House on Coruscant. The lights are dim, casting a purple and blue glow on their faces. Palpatine tells the story of a Sith Lord who could save others from death. It's a seductive story, a hook to catch Anakin's desperate heart. But there is a theory that suggests Plagueis' plan was far more complex and terrifying than just cheating death. Plagueis was a scientist. In his public life, he was Hago Damask, a wealthy magister of the intergalactic banking clan. He dealt with numbers, with economics, with the flow of wealth across the galaxy. But in secret, he was dealing with the flow of reality itself. We know he was obsessed with midi-chlorians, those microscopic life forms that speak to the Force. But his research went deeper. He began to see the Force not just as an energy field, but as a fabric, a tapestry that could be torn. Imagine the Force like a great invisible ocean connecting all living things. When a life ends peacefully, it is like a drop of water returning to the sea, a smooth transition. But Plagueis discovered that when a life ends in violence, especially violence caused by the dark side, it creates a rupture, a tiny microscopic tear in the fabric of reality. It's a wound, and like a wound in the skin, it changes the tissue around it. Plagueis set up research stations on planets that had seen great suffering. He had facilities on Naboo and, yes, on the volcanic world of Mustafar. He wasn't just mining resources, he was mining the Force. He was measuring these tiny tears. He realized that the ancient Sith, with their wars and their rituals, had been unknowingly creating these wounds for thousands of years. Places that we call dark side nexuses, like the cave on Dagobah or the ruins on Korriban, weren't just spooky places. They were scar tissue. They were places where the fabric of reality had been ripped open so many times that it had warped. This theory suggests that Plagueis had a goal that was almost impossible to comprehend. He didn't just want to rule the galaxy, he wanted to rewrite the laws of physics. He believed that if he could orchestrate enough violence, enough conflict on a massive galactic scale, he could create a wound so large that he could reach inside the machinery of the Force and change how it worked. He wanted to become a god, not in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal one. Think about the Clone Wars, the chaos, the battles on hundreds of worlds. Palpatine, his apprentice, was the architect of that war. But the blueprint came from Plagueis. The plan wasn't just political, it was metaphysical. Every battle, every fallen Jedi, every destroyed droid army was contributing to a massive, invisible storm in the Force. The rise of the Empire was just a byproduct. The real goal was to break the galaxy's spirit so profoundly that the dark side could flood in and reshape existence. It is a chilling thought, isn't it? That behind the politics and the laser battles, there was a quiet, Mune scientist sitting in a laboratory, looking at a screen, watching the galaxy bleed in real time, waiting for the moment when the tear was wide enough to step through. But Plagueis made a mistake. He thought he could control the chaos. He thought he was the master of the experiment. He didn't realize that his apprentice, Palpatine, was watching, learning, and waiting. When Palpatine killed Plagueis in his sleep, he didn't just take his master's place. He stopped the experiment before it could reach its final, terrifying conclusion. Or perhaps he simply took over the controls. This idea of wounds in the Force changes how we look at everything. It explains why certain places feel heavy, why the Jedi Temple was built on top of an ancient Sith shrine to try and heal the ground, to put a bandage over a wound that refused to close. It makes the galaxy feel older, deeper, and more fragile. As you lie there, safe in your bed, imagine that heavy, complex history dissolving. Those wars are long gone. The wounds have healed or faded into the background noise of the universe. You don't have to worry about the fabric of reality. Your reality is soft sheets and a quiet room. Your reality is the gentle rise and fall of your own chest. Let's drift to another topic, one that seems like a simple rule but hides a labyrinth of psychological manipulation: the rule of two. Always two there are, no more, no less. A master and an apprentice. We were told that Darth Bane created this rule 1,000 years ago to stop the Sith from fighting each other. The logic was simple. If there are many Sith, they will form groups and kill the strong. If there are only two, the power is concentrated. But there's a fascinating theory that suggests the rule of two wasn't a Sith invention at all. What if it was a trap laid by the Jedi? Imagine the Jedi Council, thousands of years ago. They are studying their enemy. They know the Sith are driven by greed, by a hunger for power that can never be satisfied. The Jedi realize that they cannot simply hunt the Sith to extinction. The dark side will always exist, so they decide to contain it. They decide to use the Sith's own nature against them. The theory goes that a secret group of Jedi Masters began to plant seeds of information. They left behind false holocrons, ancient texts that were accidentally preserved. These texts spoke of the purity of the two. They whispered that true power comes from concentration, not dilution. They appealed to the Sith's vanity. They knew that a Sith Lord, in their arrogance, would love the idea of being the only one, the supreme being with only one servant. By tricking the Sith into adopting the rule of two, the Jedi ensured that the Sith would never again have an army. They would never again be a legion that could overwhelm the galaxy by sheer numbers. Instead, they would be locked in a perpetual cycle of betrayal. The apprentice kills the master, losing centuries of knowledge in a single stroke of a lightsaber. Then that apprentice has to start over, finding a new student, teaching them from scratch. It is a cycle of disruption. It prevents the Sith from ever building something that lasts. Think about the math of it. If you have 1,000 Sith working together, their power multiplies. They could achieve things that are impossible for one person. But if you limit them to two, you cap their potential. You put a ceiling on their growth. The Jedi, in their wisdom, engineered a self-destruct mechanism for their enemies and disguised it as a holy doctrine, and the Sith fell for it. For 1,000 years, they hid in the shadows, thinking they were getting stronger, thinking they were the smart ones. But in reality, they were playing a game designed by their enemies, a game they could never truly win because the rules were rigged to keep them small. It makes the Jedi seem much more cunning, doesn't it? Not just warrior monks, but grand strategists playing a game of chess that spans millennia. It brings a strange sense of calm to the chaos of the Star Wars galaxy. It suggests that there was a balance, a plan, even when things seemed darkest. It suggests that the good guys were looking out for the future in ways that no one understood at the time. Now let's move to a more personal connection, a bond that ties the story together in a beautiful, tragic knot. The connection between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. We always wondered how Luke, a farm boy from Tatooine with barely any training, could resist the dark side when his father, a trained Jedi Knight, fell so easily. We say it was because Luke had a good heart, and that is true, but there might be a deeper, more mystical reason. A Force dyad. A Force dyad is a rare, powerful bond between two Force-sensitive beings. We saw it with Rey and Kylo Ren, but the theory suggests it started with Anakin and Luke. Think about the moment Luke was born. It was the exact same moment Anakin Skywalker truly died and became Darth Vader. As the mask was lowered onto Anakin's burned face, Luke was taking his first breath on an asteroid base miles away. The Force works in mysterious ways. It balances itself. The theory says that because of this simultaneous birth and rebirth, a bridge was formed between father and son, a bridge that spanned the galaxy. Through this bond, Luke was unconsciously learning from his father's mistakes his entire life. Every time Vader felt pain, every time he felt the cold hollowness of the dark side, a ripple went through the Force and touched young Luke. Luke didn't know what it was. Maybe he felt it as a chill in the desert air, or a sudden sadness while watching the twin suns set. But his soul was learning. He was building up an immunity. He was feeling the consequences of the dark side without having to commit the sins. This explains why Luke could see the good in Vader when no one else could. Obi-Wan thought Anakin was gone. Yoda thought he was irredeemable. But Luke said, "I feel the conflict in you." He wasn't guessing. He was literally feeling it. The dyad connection allowed him to sense the tiny, flickering candle of Anakin Skywalker trapped inside the armor. He could feel his father's regret, his loneliness, his secret desire to be free. It changes the final duel on the Death Star. When they are fighting lightsabers clashing in the dark throne room, it isn't just a sword fight. It is a conversation without words. Vader is throwing everything he has at Luke, his anger, his fear, his power. And Luke is absorbing it, understanding it, and rejecting it. When Luke cuts off Vader's hand and then looks at his own mechanical hand, the connection is complete. He feels the entire weight of his father's tragic life in that 1 second. He sees exactly where the path leads, and because he feels it so deeply, he is able to throw his weapon away. It wasn't just willpower, it was empathy. Radical, supernatural empathy forged by a bond that the Emperor never anticipated. Palpatine thought he could manipulate Luke, but he didn't realize that Luke had been inoculated against the dark side by his own father's suffering. It's a beautiful thought, that even in his darkest moments, Vader was unknowingly teaching his son how to be the hero that he himself could never be. Let that thought settle in your mind. The idea that connections between people can transcend space and time. That we learn from those who came before us, even in ways we don't fully understand. The galaxy is vast, but it is woven together with these threads of love and family and balance. Now, I want you to imagine the planet Dagobah, the swamp planet. It is misty and humid. The trees are twisted, ancient roots gnarled and covered in moss. The air is thick with the sound of buzzing insects and distant bird calls. It sounds like a place you wouldn't want to visit, but from a safe distance, there is a coziness to it, a feeling of life, teeming and vibrant. Yoda lived there for over 20 years in exile. We were told he was hiding. But there is a theory that gives his time on Dagobah a much more noble purpose. We know there is a cave on Dagobah, a dark side cave, the one Luke goes into and sees his own face inside Vader's helmet. That cave wasn't just a spooky spot. It was a nexus, a leaking wound in the Force, spewing dark energy into the world. The theory suggests that Yoda didn't just choose Dagobah for camouflage. He went there to be a jailer. He went there to contain the darkness. Imagine the tiny green Jedi Master sitting in his mud hut. He isn't just making stew and acting eccentric. He is constantly, every second of every day, using his immense power to wrap a shield around that cave. He is meditating to keep the darkness from spreading, to keep it from poisoning the rest of the planet and maybe the galaxy. Think about the layout of his home. It wasn't built randomly. It was positioned specifically to balance the energies of the planet. Yoda was living inside a geometric lock, his own presence serving as the key. This explains why he looked so old and tired when Luke found him. He wasn't just aged, he was exhausted. He had been holding back a spiritual flood for 2 decades, all by himself, without anyone to thank him. It makes his eccentric behavior make sense too. The giggling, the riddles, the messing with R2-D2. When you are focusing 99% of your mind on holding back an ancient evil, you have to let off steam somehow. You have to find humor in the little things. It also explains why he hesitated to train Luke. He knew that if he stopped his meditation to focus on a student, the containment might slip. And indeed, when he starts training Luke, lifting the X-Wing, teaching him about the Force, the weather on Dagobah seems to get worse. The storms pick up. The dark side flares. But Yoda did it anyway. He realized that passing on the knowledge was more important than holding back the tide forever. He made a choice to trust the future. And when he finally passed away, disappearing into the Force, he didn't just die. He became part of the planet's energy, a permanent seal on the darkness he had guarded for so long. Imagine the rain falling on Dagobah now. Gentle, warm rain tapping against the broad leaves of the swamp trees. Tap, tap, tap. The fog rolls in, soft and gray, blanketing the world in silence. Yoda is gone, but the peace remains. The balance is kept. Let's travel from the swamps to the sterile, white corridors of the Death Star. It's a terrifying weapon, a moon-sized station designed to destroy planets. But there is a theory about the Death Star that turns its purpose upside down. We all know about the thermal exhaust port, the fatal flaw, a small opening, 2 meters wide, that led directly to the main reactor. One well-placed torpedo could destroy the whole station. Galen Erso, the engineer, built it there on purpose. We know that from Rogue One. But let's go deeper into the mystical side. What if the Death Star wasn't just a military station? What if it was a giant altar? The station was powered by kyber crystals, massive ones. The same crystals that power lightsabers. Kyber crystals are semi-sentient. They connect to the Force. To power a weapon of that size, the Empire had to strip mine entire worlds, desecrating holy sites like Jedha. They took these sacred stones and tortured them, forcing them to channel energy for destruction. The theory suggests that there was a cult within the Empire, a group of dark side worshippers who saw the Death Star not as a weapon to rule the galaxy, but as a mechanism for a massive ritual. They knew about the exhaust port. They knew the station would eventually be destroyed. And maybe, in their twisted logic, that was the point. Think about the moment of destruction. The Death Star blows up. Millions of lives end in an instant. The massive kyber crystals shatter. The amount of energy released, both physical and spiritual, would be unimaginable. It would be a beacon in the Force, a scream that would ripple across the stars. Some believe this ritual was designed to tear the veil between the living and the dead, to give the Emperor a surge of power that would make him immortal. It suggests that the rebels, in their heroic victory, were actually playing a part in a darker script. The destruction was the final step of the ritual. It explains why the Emperor seemed so unconcerned about the rebellion's growing strength. He was playing a win-win game. If the station survives, he rules by fear. If it is destroyed, he consumes the chaos. But even the best-laid plans of the Sith often fail because they underestimate the light. They underestimate the simple, clean courage of a Moy in an X-Wing, or a smuggler coming back to help his friend. The ritual might have released power, but it didn't grant the ultimate victory they sought. The light always finds a way to shine through the cracks. Now I want you to visualize the vastness of space again. The stars are diamond dust scattered on black velvet. It is so quiet out here. No sound carries in the vacuum. Just peace. Let's think about the color red. The red blades of the Sith lightsabers. We know they are red because the Sith pour their pain and anger into the crystal, making it bleed. But there is a theory that connects every red lightsaber in history into a single quantum network. Quantum entanglement is a real scientific concept. Two particles separated by vast distances can be linked. Change one, and the other changes instantly. Now apply that to the mystical crystals of the Sith. The theory says that when a Sith makes their crystal bleed, they are tapping into a frequency that has been used by every Sith before them. They are joining a network. This means that when Darth Vader ignited his blade, he wasn't just holding a weapon, he was holding a receiver. Through the hum of that red blade, he was unconsciously accessing the muscle memory, the combat experience, and the knowledge of every Sith Lord who had ever lived. Darth Maul, Count Dooku, Revan, Bane, all of them were whispering through the energy of the blade. It explains why Sith apprentices seem to learn so fast. They aren't starting from zero. They are downloading a library of war directly into their hands. It makes the red blade more than a weapon. It is a legacy, a bloodline of energy that stretches back to the beginning of time. And it explains why the Jedi feel so uncomfortable around those blades. It isn't just the heat or the danger. They can sense the weight of it. They can feel the thousands of ghosts standing behind the wielder. It is a heavy, oppressive feeling, like the air getting thick before a storm. But you, my friend, are far away from those storms. You are in the safe harbor of your own mind. The red blades are just stories, distant flashes of light in a history book that you are slowly closing. The book is heavy in your hands. The leather cover is warm. You close it gently, smoothing your hand over the cover. You place it back on the shelf in the archive. The rain is still falling on the skylight. Shh, shh. A soothing, rhythmic patter. The ventilation hums. You are feeling heavier now. Your eyelids are drooping. The stories of the dark side, of Vader's breath, of Plagueis' experiments, of the Death Star's secrets, they are all fading into a soft, harmless blur. They are just bedtime stories now. In the next part of our journey, we will walk further into the archives. We will look at the mysteries of the stormtroopers, the secrets of Obi-Wan's ghost, and the strange, metallic magic of Mandalorian armor. But for now, just breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Let the galaxy turn slowly on its axis. Let the stars watch over you. You are safe. You are relaxed, and you are ready to drift deeper. You are still here, safe within the sanctuary of the archive. The rain outside has settled into a steady rhythmic drumming against the glass far above our heads. It's a comforting sound, isn't it? A sound that wraps around the building like a heavy, warm blanket, separating us from the rest of the world. Inside, the air is cool and smells of old paper, ozone, and dust. You are sitting in that deep, plush chair, the leather soft beneath your hands. You might feel your eyelids growing heavier, pulled down by the gentle gravity of sleep. That is good. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to do. We are simply turning the pages of history, letting the secrets of a galaxy far, far away wash over us like a slow tide. We left off thinking about the red blades of the Sith, but now I want you to let that image fade. Let the crimson light dissolve into the soft shadows of the room. We are going to walk a little further down the aisle of this imaginary library. Can you see the dust motes dancing in the dim light? They move slowly, suspended in the quiet air. We are looking for another book, another story to help us understand the mysteries of the Force. Let's pull down a volume that smells of desert sand and scorched earth. We are going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. When we think of Obi-Wan, we think of the wise old hermit, Ben Kenobi. We see him in his robes, walking the dune seas of Tatooine under the twin suns. We know he was powerful, and we know he learned the secret of immortality, how to become a Force ghost, from his old master, Qui-Gon Jinn. But have you ever noticed that Obi-Wan's ghost was different? He wasn't just a voice on the wind. He was solid. He could sit on a log on Dagobah. He could brush aside vines. He could appear for hours at a time, holding long conversations with Luke. Other Jedi spirits flickered and faded, but Obi-Wan was like a lighthouse that never dimmed. There is a theory, hidden in the subtext of the saga, that suggests Obi-Wan's extraordinary power after death didn't come solely from the light. It came from a unique, tragic connection to his greatest enemy, Darth Maul. Close your eyes and imagine the desert at night. The heat of the day has vanished, replaced by a deep, bone-chilling cold. The stars are incredibly bright. Somewhere in that darkness, Obi-Wan is sitting by a small fire. But he isn't alone in the Force. For decades, he was tethered to Maul. Think about their history. On Naboo, when Obi-Wan severed Maul, he created a wound, not just a physical injury, but a tear in the Force itself. Maul survived for years on nothing but hate. He held himself together with the dark side, focusing all of that energy on one person, Kenobi. That kind of obsession creates a bond, a dark, twisted cable of energy connecting two souls across the galaxy. We call it a rivalry, but in the Force, it is a symbiosis. For all those years Maul was alive, seething in the darkness, he was inadvertently feeding energy into this connection. And Obi-Wan, the master of defense, the negotiator, the man who waits, he was on the other end. Now, drift to their final meeting. It is one of the most quiet, profound moments in history. Twin suns are setting. The desert is painted in shades of violet and orange. Maul finds Obi-Wan. They don't scream. They don't do acrobatics. They stare at each other. Maul is weary. Obi-Wan is calm. When the duel happens, it lasts only seconds. 3 strikes. Clash, clash, cut. Maul falls. As he lies there, dying in Obi-Wan's arms, the anger finally drains out of him. He asks, "Is he the chosen one?" Obi-Wan says he is, and Maul says he will avenge us. Us. In that final moment, the hatred dissolved into a strange, tragic kinship. The theory suggests that when Maul died, that massive reservoir of dark side energy, the power that had kept him alive through madness and dismemberment, didn't just vanish. It flowed along the bond. It flowed into Obi-Wan. But Obi-Wan didn't let it corrupt him. He didn't use it for power or dominance. He was a master of balance. He took that raw, dark energy and transmuted it. He used it as an anchor. This is why when Vader struck Obi-Wan down on the Death Star just a few years later, Obi-Wan vanished instantly. He was ready. He had the light side teachings of Qui-Gon, yes, but he also had the raw, grounding power he had absorbed from Maul. It made his spirit heavy in the physical realm. It allowed him to stay behind, to linger, to be the father figure Luke needed. It is a beautiful irony. The Sith Lord who wanted to destroy Obi-Wan ended up giving him the power to save the galaxy. It suggests that nothing is truly wasted in the Force. Even darkness can be turned into a candle if the heart carrying it is pure. Imagine Obi-Wan's ghost now, shimmering in blue light. He is smiling. He is at peace. The desert wind blows through him, and he feels no cold. He is part of the universe, anchored by the history of his battles, watching over the future. It is a comforting thought that our enemies, our struggles, our pains, they don't just damage us. They can, if we are wise, give us the strength to endure beyond what we thought possible. Let that image of the blue ghost fade into the starlight. We are moving on. We are leaving the desert and going to the high towers of Coruscant. We are going into the sleeping mind of a young Jedi Knight. We all know Palpatine manipulated Anakin Skywalker. We saw him whisper in his ear, flattering his ego, feeding his fears. But there is a theory that Palpatine's influence went much deeper than conversation. It suggests he was invading Anakin's dreams. Sleep is a vulnerable time. When we sleep, our mental shields are down. We are drifting in the unconscious ocean of our own minds. For a powerful Sith Lord, this is an open door. The theory proposes that the nightmares Anakin had, first about his mother, Shmi, and later about his wife, Padme, were not natural premonitions. They were planted. They were crafted. Imagine Palpatine in his private quarters. He isn't sleeping. He is meditating in the dark, his mind reaching out like invisible tendrils of smoke across the city. He finds the bright, burning presence of Anakin Skywalker in the Jedi Temple. He touches that mind, gently at first. He finds the fear that is already there. The fear of loss, the fear of being alone, and he feeds it. He takes a small worry about his mother and amplifies it. He injects dark side energy into the dream, making it vivid, making it visceral. Anakin wakes up sweating, heart pounding, convinced that what he saw is inevitable. He doesn't realize he is being directed. He thinks it is the Force warning him. Now think about the dreams of Padme. They were so specific, dying in childbirth. It was the one thing that could drive Anakin to desperation, the one thing the Jedi couldn't fight. If Palpatine had just showed him Padme dying in a war, Anakin would have fought harder. But childbirth? That is nature. That is life and death intertwined. It made Anakin feel helpless, and helplessness is the soil where the dark side grows. This theory explains why Anakin fell so fast. It wasn't a sudden decision in the Chancellor's office. It was the result of years of psychological conditioning while he slept. It was a feedback loop. The nightmares made him fearful and angry during the day. That fear and anger made him more susceptible to the dark side, and being more susceptible made it easier for Palpatine to invade his dreams the next night. Round and round it went, a spiral tightening around his heart. It is a terrifying thought that someone could enter your dreams. But here, in this story, we are safe from that. We are just observers. We can see the tragedy of it, the mechanism of the trap. It makes Anakin less of a villain and more of a victim. A young man who never really got a good night's sleep, who was fighting a war in his own head against a master tactician. As you lie in your bed, appreciate the quiet of your own mind. Your dreams are your own. They are just the shuffling of your day's memories, the brain-cleaning house. There is no dark wizard whispering to you. There is only the soft, rhythmic cycle of sleep. Deep sleep. REM sleep. Dreams that float like clouds and disperse when you wake. You are safe. Let's shift our gaze now. Let's move forward in time, past the fall of the Jedi, past the Empire to the time of the First Order. We are looking at an object, a mask, the melted, twisted helmet of Darth Vader. We saw Kylo Ren praying to it. "Show me again the power of the darkness," he whispered. We thought he was just a fanatic, a grandson obsessed with a legacy. But what if the helmet was active? What if it wasn't just a piece of plasteel and durasteel, but a trap? Think about where that helmet was. It was on the funeral pyre on Endor. Luke burned his father's armor. But before that, the helmet was on the Death Star. It was worn by Vader when the Emperor unleashed his full fury. Palpatine's Force lightning, the raw, concentrated essence of the dark side, poured over Vader in those final moments. Matter remembers. In the Star Wars galaxy, objects can become saturated with the Force. Sith holocrons, Jedi swords, ancient stones. Why not a helmet that had seen so much death? The theory suggests that the helmet became a beacon, a radio receiver for the dark side. When Ben Solo was a boy, training with Luke, he was conflicted. He had the Skywalker blood, the potential for great light and great darkness. Luke kept the helmet. He thought it was a symbol of redemption, a reminder that even the worst monster could return to the light. He kept it as a family heirloom. But he didn't realize that the dark energy was still trapped inside the fused metal. Imagine the helmet sitting on a shelf in Luke's academy. It is silent, it is ugly, but to young Ben Solo, it hums. It calls to him, not with words, but with feelings. It projects memories that aren't his. It shows him the power Vader had. It shows him the fear Vader commanded. But it edits the truth. It leaves out the pain. It leaves out the suffering inside the suit. It acts like a siren, singing a song of power to a lonely boy. And there is a darker layer to this theory. Supreme Leader Snoke, we know he manipulated Ben. Perhaps the helmet was his conduit. Snoke couldn't just walk into Luke's academy. Luke was too powerful. He would have sensed an intruder, but a lifeless object, a piece of junk, that could slip through the defenses. Snoke could project his voice, his will, through the helmet. When Ben thought he was communing with his grandfather, he was actually listening to the whispers of Snoke, distorted through the dark lens of the mask. It turns the story of Kylo Ren into a tragedy of proximity. If Luke had destroyed the helmet, if he had cast it into a sun, perhaps Ben would never have fallen. It teaches us about the weight of the past. Sometimes holding on to the physical remnants of history can be dangerous. Sometimes we need to let things go completely to be free of them. But now visualize that helmet crumbling to dust. It is old, it is brittle, the energy has faded, it is just ash in the wind. The past cannot hurt you. You are here, in the present, breathing slowly. Inhale, exhale. The dust settles, the silence returns. We are walking deeper into the archive now. The shelves here are filled with white armor, row upon row of pristine white helmets. Stormtroopers. We have to smile a little when we think of stormtroopers. They are the faceless legions of the Empire, and they are famous for one thing: missing. They can't hit a target to save their lives. Even the heroes joke about it. "I can't see a thing in this helmet," Luke said. But what if that wasn't incompetence? What if it was design? Consider the transition. The Empire moved from clone troopers to stormtroopers. The clones were perfect soldiers. They hit everything. They were deadly, but they were also expensive, and they had a singular loyalty that could be tricky. The Empire needed a massive army to control the galaxy through fear, not necessarily through precision. Darth Vader and the Emperor oversaw the design of the stormtrooper gear. The theory posits that the helmets were engineered to fail. Not completely, but subtly. They contained heads-up displays and targeting computers, yes, but they also had subtle geometric patterns, tiny circuits that channeled a low-level static of the dark side. Why? Two reasons. First, control. A soldier who is slightly disoriented, slightly cut off from their senses is easier to command. They become more like a droid, less like a person. The helmet creates a sensory deprivation tank. It isolates the wearer. It creates a fog of obedience. When you put on that bucket, you lose your individuality. You become just a number. Second, protection for the Sith. Palpatine was paranoid. He knew that the biggest threat to his rule wasn't the rebellion. It was his own army turning on him. A legion of sharpshooters is dangerous. If 1,000,000 stormtroopers decided to shoot the Emperor, he wanted to make sure they would miss. By subtly sabotaging their aim, especially when they were agitated or under stress, he ensured that his own troops could never effectively assassinate him. The theory goes even further. It suggests that the helmet's interference spiked when the trooper was aiming at a Force user. The dark side protects its own. When a stormtrooper tried to shoot Luke or Leia or Obi-Wan, the Force static in the helmet would surge, pushing their aim just a few inches to the left or right. It wasn't luck. It was the armor itself betraying the soldier. It explains why they are so scary in numbers, but so ineffective individually. They are a blunt instrument, a wall of white meant to crush spirits, not a scalpel meant to remove threats surgically. It makes the stormtrooper a tragic figure too. A man or woman conscripted, put into a suit that blinds them, makes them clumsy, and forces them to obey. They are trapped inside the machine. But you are not trapped. You are free. Feel the space around you. There is no armor on your skin, just soft fabric, cool air. You can see clearly, even with your eyes closed. You can visualize the room, the window, the stars outside. You have full control of your senses. You are the master of your own rest. Let's leave the legions of the Empire and go back to the ancient days of the Jedi Order. Let's look at a rule that everyone knows but few understand. The prohibition of attachment. The rule against marriage and families. We always thought the Jedi were just strict monks. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. They thought that if you loved someone, you would be afraid to lose them, and that fear would turn you to the dark side. And that is true. But there is a biological evolutionary theory that is much more unsettling. The Jedi had records going back 25,000 years. They had seen everything. They noticed a pattern. When two powerful Force-sensitive beings had a child, that child was often stronger than the parents. The Force didn't just add up, it multiplied. It evolved. If the Jedi allowed families, if they allowed bloodlines to form, they foresaw a catastrophe. Imagine a lineage of Skywalkers going back 10 generations. By the 10th generation, you wouldn't have a Jedi, you would have a god. You would have a being of such immense power that they could crack planets with a thought. They would be unstable. Their physical bodies wouldn't be able to contain the energy. They would burn out, or go mad, or accidentally destroy entire systems just by having a nightmare. The Jedi rule wasn't just about emotional discipline. It was a quarantine. It was genetic population control. They were terrified of the Force singularity, a being so strong that they would break the balance of the universe forever. This is why they were so scared of Anakin. He had no father. He was created by the Force itself. He was the start of a new, uncontrolled bloodline. And look what happened. His son Luke became a legend who toppled an empire. His grandson Ben had raw power that crackled like an unstable reactor. His granddaughter, well, the lineage continued to spiral. The Jedi were trying to keep the flame of the Force steady. They wanted it to be a candle, illuminating the galaxy. They didn't want it to become a supernova that would consume everything. They sacrificed their own happiness, their own chance for love, to keep the galaxy safe from themselves. It is a lonely, heavy burden to deny your own biology for the sake of the future. It makes the Jedi Temple feel deeper, sadder. Empty halls where children were raised without parents, trained to be selfless vessels. It was a noble sacrifice, but perhaps a flawed one. Because as we saw, love is also the thing that saves the world. Luke's love for his father, Anakin's love for his son. The Jedi tried to engineer safety, but they got that the heart is the strongest connection to the Force. Let that thought drift. The balance between power and love. The choices we make to protect others. It is all part of the great tapestry. And finally, for this part of our journey, let's go to the planet Mandalore. A world of warriors, a world of metal, Beskar, the Mandalorian iron. It is legendary. It can block a lightsaber. It is almost indestructible. The Mandalorians treat it with religious reverence. This is the way, they say. But where did it come from? Why is this one metal on this one planet so special? Geology alone doesn't explain it. There is a dark, ancient theory about the origin of Beskar. Thousands of years ago, Mandalore was a battleground. The Mandalorians fought the Jedi and the Sith. They were the only non-Force users who could stand toe-to-toe with the magic wielders. The theory suggests that Beskar was born from these wars. Imagine a battlefield where hundreds of Jedi and Sith fell. The air was thick with Force energy, lightning, telekinesis, the release of life essence. When a Force user dies violently, that energy has to go somewhere. The theory says it's soaked into the ground. It's soaked into the iron ore deposits of Mandalore. Beskar isn't just strong metal, it is crystallized Force energy. It is the fossilized remains of ancient battles. That is why it resists lightsabers. A lightsaber is pure energy. When it hits Beskar, it isn't hitting metal. It is hitting a wall of trapped Force energy that pushes back, like repels like. The wavy patterns in the metal, the Damascus look, those are the ripples of the Force frozen in time. This explains why the Mandalorians are so secretive about forging it, why the armorer speaks in whispers and rituals. You aren't just melting metal, you are awakening ancient ghosts. You have to treat it with respect, or the energy might become unstable. It also explains why the Empire wanted it so badly. Why they orchestrated the Night of a Thousand Tears to wipe out the Mandalorians and take the Beskar. Palpatine knew what it was. He didn't just want armor. He wanted to control the largest deposit of force-resistant material in the galaxy. He wanted to make sure no one could build a shield that could stop him. It adds a layer of mysticism to the Mandalorians. They think they are fighting against wizards, but they are wearing the souls of wizards as armor. They are walking graveyards of the Force, protected by the very thing they claim to despise. It is a paradox, irony forged in fire. Imagine the sound of the armorer's hammer. Clang, clang, clang. It is a slow, rhythmic sound, like a bell tolling in a deep cave. Sparks fly, orange and gold in the darkness. The metal glows, turning from solid to liquid and back to solid. It is cooling now. The silver surface is smooth, cool to the touch. It is a shield, a protection, and you are protected too. You have your own shield. The warmth of your bed, the walls of your room, the quiet of the night. Nothing can harm you here. You are as safe as a Mandalorian in full Beskar armor, but you don't need to fight. You only need to rest. The library is vast, and we have walked far tonight. We have looked at ghosts in the desert, helmets that whisper, armor that remembers, and the terrifying logic of the Jedi. The books are piling up on the table next to us. But we aren't done yet. There is one more section of the archive we need to visit in our final journey. We need to talk about the clones, about the hidden signals in the galaxy, and about the ultimate nature of the Force itself. But for now, pause. Listen to the rain again. It hasn't stopped. It has only gotten steadier. Drum, drum, drum. A lullaby from the sky. The lights in the archive are dimming even further, turning from a soft gold to a deep, sleepy twilight blue. Your breathing is slow. Inhale. Exhale. Like the tide of a calm ocean, like the slow rotation of a massive planet. Let the stories settle in your mind like dust settling on a shelf. They are there if you need them, but for now they are just dreams waiting to happen. You are heavy. You are warm. You are peaceful. Rest here for a moment, in the silence between the stars, in the quiet space between the words. We have been sitting here for a long time, haven't we? The archive has become a world of its own. The rain outside has softened to a mere whisper, a gentle misting against the high glass ceiling that creates a soft, blurry halo around the moon. The air inside is still and settled. You are deeper into the chair now, your body almost weightless, supported by the cushions and the quiet atmosphere of this sanctuary. The books we have examined, the ones about Vader's breath, the red blades, the armor of Mandalore, are resting in a stack on the heavy wooden table beside you. Their secrets are safe. Their stories are told. But there are just a few more volumes left on the shelf. A few more mysteries to unravel before we turn out the lights completely and let sleep take over. You don't need to lift a finger. I will pull them down for you. We will look at them together through the hazy, comfortable lens of relaxation. We are going to explore the mind, the body, and finally, the stars themselves. Let's talk about the mind. Specifically, the Jedi Mind Trick. It is one of the first things we ever saw a Jedi do. Old Ben Kenobi waving his hand in the dusty streets of Mos Eisley. These aren't the droids you're looking for. It seemed so gentle, a little nudge to help a weak-minded stormtrooper look the other way. We think of it as a pacifist's tool, a way to avoid a fight. But the theory we are exploring tonight suggests a much darker origin, one that the Jedi buried deep in their history. Imagine the ancient Sith, thousands of years ago. They didn't care about avoiding conflict. They cared about domination. They practiced a technique called mind domination. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an override. They would reach into a victim's brain and crush their will, forcing them to obey like a puppet. It was brutal and absolute. The theory suggests that the Jedi Mind Trick is actually a watered-down version of this Sith magic. In the High Republic era, they called it the Mind Touch. They rebranded it. They took the dark, jagged edges off the technique and made it smoother, softer. But the mechanic is the same. When a Jedi waves their hand, they are temporarily erasing a person's free will. They are overriding reality in another being's mind. Think about the hand gesture, that distinctive wave. Ancient texts describe Sith sorcerers using specific hand movements to channel dark energy into the mind. The Jedi wave is a simplified, elegant version of those old cursed gestures. It explains why young Jedi struggle with it. To make it work, you have to impose your will on someone else. You have to want control. That is a dark side emotion. When a Padawan is trying to be peaceful and passive, the trick fails. It is only when they tap into a little bit of frustration, a little bit of authority, that the mind trick clicks into place. It explains why species like the Toydarians or the Hutts are immune. They didn't just evolve that way randomly. Their ancestors developed mental shields specifically to survive the era of the Sith Wars. They evolved to resist domination. But here, in the safety of the archive, no one is trying to control you. Your mind is your own. You are free to think, to dream, to wander. There is no pressure here, just the soft suggestion to relax. And unlike the stormtrooper, you are choosing to listen. You are choosing to let go of the tension in your jaw, to smooth out the furrow in your brow. You are letting your thoughts drift like leaves on a slow-moving river, not because you are forced to, but because it feels so good to stop swimming against the current. Now let's shift our focus from the mind to the body. Let's think about the Emperor again and his most terrifying power, Force lightning. We saw the blue arcs of energy crackling from his fingertips. We saw the pain it caused. But have you ever wondered why it looks the way it does? Why does it transform him? When Palpatine fought Mace Windu, his face melted, his eyes turned yellow, his skin became pale and wrinkled. The official story is that the lightning was reflected back and burned him. But the theory we are looking at says otherwise. The theory says that Force lightning isn't just electricity. It is a siphon. It is a vampiric tether. When a Sith Lord casts that lightning, they aren't just shocking their enemy. They are draining their life force. They are eating the energy of the living to sustain their own unnatural lifespan. Look at the colors, blue and purple. In the Star Wars galaxy, these are often the colors of life, of oxygen, of vitality. The lightning is the visible manifestation of life essence being ripped away. When Palpatine was fighting Windu, he wasn't being scarred by the reflection. He was revealing his true form. He was spending the life force he had hoarded for decades. The mask of the kindly politician fell away, and the ancient, withered creature beneath was revealed. It explains why he looked so old, yet moved with such speed when he needed to. He was a vessel filled with stolen time. It explains why, on Exegol, he was hooked up to that massive machine, waiting for a new host. He was empty. He needed to drain the dyad, Rey and Ben, to fill himself up again. This theory makes the dark side feel less like a superpower and more like a parasite. It creates a hunger that can never be satisfied. The more you use it, the more you need it. It is a tragic, endless cycle of consumption. But you, my friend, do not need to take from anyone. You have your own energy, a warm, steady light burning in your chest. You are self-sufficient. As you sleep, your body recharges naturally. The cells repair themselves. The mind sorts its memories. You are part of the natural cycle, not fighting against it. You are healing, slowly and steadily, with every breath you take. Inhale life. Exhale fatigue. Now, for our final story, we are going to leave the planets behind entirely. We are going to fly into the chaotic, beautiful mess of deep space. We are going to the Kessel Run. It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Han Solo's famous boast. We know he took a shortcut through the Maw Cluster, a dangerous region filled with black holes and gravity wells. But why does that region exist? Why is there a cluster of black holes so close together, defying the laws of astrophysics? The theory is chilling in its grandeur. It suggests that the Maw Cluster wasn't a natural formation. It was an engineering project, an ancient Sith cathedral out of gravity and starlight. Thousands of years ago, the Sith wanted to harvest the dark side energy of the universe itself. They used their immense power to tear holes in the fabric of reality. They moved black holes like stones in a garden, arranging them in a perfect geometric lattice. This wasn't just to make navigation difficult, it was a machine. The force wounds, those tears in space, were designed to suck in the dark energy of the cosmos and concentrate it. The Kessel Run is the path between the gears of this machine. When Han Solo flew the Millennium Falcon through the run, he wasn't just dodging debris. He was surfing the event horizons of ancient Sith artifacts. The theory explains why the Pike Syndicate was so obsessed with that route. They were unconsciously serving the ancient machine, sending ships through it to keep the energy flowing. It explains why the Falcon had to be so fast. It wasn't just about speed, It was about escaping the pull of a dark side nexus that wanted to consume the ship. Han Solo, a man of science and blasters, a man who didn't believe in the hokey religion of the Force, was actually the greatest navigator of the dark side in history. He flew through the belly of the beast and came out the other side unscathed. It suggests that sometimes ignorance is the best shield. He didn't know he should be afraid of the Sith ghosts in the black holes, so they couldn't touch him. He just flew. Imagine the Millennium Falcon now. Not racing, but drifting. The engines are off. It is floating in the silence of the Kessel Run, but far away from the danger. The black holes are just distant swirls of violet and black, beautiful and silent. The stars are streaks of light painted on the cockpit window. The ship rocks gently, like a cradle. We have reached the end of the Kessel Run. We have reached end of the archive. The theories have been told. The books are closed. Look around the library one last time in your mind's eye. The shelves are towering and dark, but they are not ominous. They are protectors of knowledge. The dust has settled on the floor. The air is cool and still. The rain has stopped completely now. The moon is shining through the glass, casting a pale silver light over the room. It is time to leave. Imagine standing up from that deep, comfortable leather chair. Your body feels heavy, relaxed, like you're moving through honey. You walk slowly toward the heavy oak doors of the archive. Your footsteps make no sound. You are a ghost in your own story, observing without disturbing. You reach the wall where the light switches are. Old brass switches. You flip the first one. Click. The lights in the far back of the library go out, plunging the rows of books into darkness. You flip the second switch. Click. The middle section goes dark. The shadows stretch out, soft and welcoming. You flip the third switch. Click. The reading lamp on the table goes out. The only light left is the moonlight from above. You open the door and step out into the night. But it isn't a cold night. It is a perfect night. The air is fresh and smells of rain and clean earth. You are walking down a path lined with soft, glowing moss. The path leads you back to your bed, back to your physical body. You lie down, you pull the covers up. You are back in the present moment. Think about the journey we took. We turned the scary things, the Sith, the monsters, the weapons, into stories. We took their power away by understanding them. We analyzed the ghosts until they were just memories. We deconstructed the lightning until it was just color. We turned the Death Star into a puzzle and the Kessel Run into a painting. There is nothing left to fear in the galaxy. The balance has been restored. The light side and the dark side are at rest, held in equilibrium by the gravity of your sleep. Your breathing is so slow now. Inhale for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for a moment and exhale for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel your toes relaxing. Feel your ankles unlocking. The relaxation moves up your calves, past your knees, into your thighs. Your legs are heavy, sinking into the mattress. The relaxation moves up your spine, unknotting every muscle in your back. Your shoulders drop away from your ears. Your arms are loose at your sides, fingers slightly curled. Your neck is soft. Your jaw is unclenched. Your eyes are resting in their sockets. Even your forehead is smooth. The Force is with you, not as a weapon, but as a blanket. It surrounds you, it penetrates you, it binds the galaxy together, and tonight it binds you to a deep, restorative sleep. Drift away now. Float past the twin suns of Tatooine, watching them set over the dunes. Float past the clouds of Bespin, orange and pink in the twilight. Float through the starfields, past the quiet nebula into the deep velvet black of space. There is only silence. There is only peace. There is only sleep. Good night.